Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Community in Depth. And guess who's here? One of our favorite guests of all times, Max Bitterman, is here. He's a dog relator, and we always love it when he comes in studio and shares his vast knowledge about all of our furry friends that have four legs. Max, it's so good to see you. How have you been?
I've been good. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm so happy you're here. Max, I know that you have your hands in quite a few different things. Would you be so kind as to tell us your businesses and what's going on?
Yeah, we have a dog training company called Your Dog's Best Friend, and we have a doggy daycare called the Dog Wellness Club, and we are building a doggy media company, which will launch this spring or summer, depending on how fast we go, called Answers from Dogs.
And you really love to get in the head of dogs. When you tell people you're a dog relator, what does that mean to you?
Well, it does make our dog training company unique in that no one looks for it. It's not an established term, but it properly defines the paradigm shift that we provide from the status quo in the industry, which is we use a relational approach much more like parenting, rather than classical conditioning or compliance-based dog training. So we market dog training like every other dog training company, but through the process, our clients learn that we offer an alternative, which is to learn to responsively relate and communicate in a meaningful way with your dog as you navigate life, like raising somebody.
So I know over the years you have told me that dogs are much better than people. They're the best people you're ever going to meet. Dogs come in all sorts of sizes, temperaments, but what really is the heart of a dog?
One of the benefits of using a dog-centric approach where we actually study dogs and teach ourselves rather than studying dog training philosophy created by people and try to jam it down the dog's throat is that dogs agree with it. And the revelations and illuminations in the study of dogs, unbridled and unhindered by the study of, established scientific dogma and other things, is that the truth is so much more inspirational and motivational and exciting and filled with opportunities, from a dog lover's perspective. So it's such good news when compared to what you learn if you were to visit a professional dog trainer to either raise a puppy or solve a behavior issue.
And also over the years you've said that a dog parent really knows what they're doing, and a lot of the problems that we see sometimes with dogs is because they were taken away too soon from their parents.
Yeah, that's a common one. I think a lot of things make us the same as our dogs, and so a really good hack would be to understand a dog and help a dog would, number one, to be to use that model. What's someone going through? How do I respond in a meaningful way as the model to help, which is more stereotypically human, but actually more natural for all social mammals, including ours. So many things make us the same, but there's a few things that do make us different, and one of them is that we live in story, and the other animals live in nature's narrative, or reality, as some people call it.
I don't know what that means.
So the more we deviate from nature's narrative in our own perceptions, the more friction we have with each other and with our dogs. So in taking your dog too early, which was your question, there are a lot of thick stories that deviate from nature that create that event. Number one, there's a story that humans created dogs. We did not. We chose their parents a bunch of times. Nature created dogs. Their parents created dogs. Another one is that they are meant to serve us and follow us, and we actually sell them like a product, where they are not a product and they're not meant to leave their own families. That's a deviation. So the concept of using a dog-centric approach of like, okay, I took this baby from his parents, maybe I should be a parent instead of an owner, maybe I should raise them instead of train, those mantras and they kind of seem like platitudes or things that like a dog lover would just gravitate to without facts, which they are, which is cool, but not losing the reality of that is so crucial, that that's actually the reality. And what it does is it points you in the right direction as you go through life and you have a situation with your dog. Why wouldn't I ask their parents how to raise their children instead of someone who studied classical conditioning, which came from a scientist named Skinner, who was starving animals below the starvation line and motivating them with food. No one I know goes to scientists from the 70s that use torture for parenting books. It doesn't tell you what philosophy to have or what to do or how you should be with your dog, but rather it literally serves as a compass you can use every day, every time, from the day you get your puppy till their last day. And I think that's the power of it and why our services are gratuitous, whether it's like dog training or daycare or boarding or grooming. What underpins it all is trying to bring awareness to the recognition that dogs are good people. And that's where the media company has so much value in my eyes and so much of my focus, because we can have a global reach with an augmented reality interactive video puppy class and a puppy parenting ebook and other kind of cool new media opportunities. We can reach people globally who are ready to hear this, want to hear this, and aren't satisfied with what they know isn't true, that is the status quo, but they don't have an alternative and they don't know where to turn. So that's what makes me really excited, is to popularize the awareness, not a message, not a philosophy, not a product, but to actually just popularize the awareness itself.
Do you think that the United States has a different relationship with their dogs or pets in general than a lot of other countries?
Yeah, culture is the ultimate story, and it's the thickest story, and it's the most pervasive, and humans can't actually tell story from reality. So there's a country where they wrap a little girl's feet so they don't grow. That feels very natural to those people. There's a country where they eat dogs, where most people I know would rather die than let their dog get hurt. And so culturally, which one is more in tune with nature and like objective truth and reality? Is neither? Are they all just different stories? Being able to separate and disconnect completely, part of what helps is you can learn different cultures and look for the commonalities. One thing that makes America unique is I think most cultures inferiorize all animals but us. We have more people that babyize their dog, and the predominant dog training philosophy is positive only, which basically doesn't teach them right from wrong in a meaningful way and treats them as such that they don't have a higher calling other than personal rewards. That's Pax the Malamute sneezing, by the way. Where they don't have a higher calling of like self-actualization and being of service and being meaningful contributors. They just want treats. And so that, I think, is the most common way in the United States. We treat our dogs like silly fluffy perma babies. And that story deviates far from them being incredible grown-ups once they grow up and are raised well and have incredible gifts to share with their community and to be of service. Like when you see a service dog give a 10-year-old a new lease on life who has muscular dystrophy, and they go to school with them, and it is incredible, it is amazing. But the reality is that's super normal. That dog has been well trained and prepared to serve in this way this time, and we're primed to see it and notice it. But most people's dogs are serving at that level of selflessness, brilliance, and kindness in different ways at different times, and most of the time people don't notice. In fact, at the dog park, most people will disrupt it while making dumb dog or stupid dog comments, not realizing that their dog was giving another dog thousands of dollars worth of free dog training and filling a nurture gap that's dangerous for that dog and that person. So realizing that that's not miraculous, but that's normal, would be really great, because every single day you can go on social media and see the pit bull rescue the little girl from the fire, the monkey rescue the puppy from the crumbling building, and you can say amazing, 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 thousands of days in a row. When do you go, oh, that's normal, and it's wonderful and inspiring, but it's completely normal. The show Unlikely Animal Friends, more accurately would be labeled Highly Likely Animal Friends. We are probably less likely to get along with other animals than any of the other animals that are featured on the show are. So our language, our stories, our culture rob us of the ability to see what they're telling us all the time that is already there. We have all these funhouse mirror filters that make us think we see things we don't, and the judgments then go ricocheting all over the place.
What are some of the learning lessons that you see on a daily basis at the Wellness Club, Dog to Dog?
It is so remarkable. A dog can come in who does not have bite inhibition, where they're nervous and they're uncomfortable, and they will use hurting somebody to back the other dogs off. The counselor dogs are not dense or daft. They know that, and they go, this dog doesn't feel safe inside. We're going to go help him feel better. And when they go do that, you'll see moments where they'll work through a whole lot just to get this dog to realize that we care about you and you don't need to use that. But there are scenarios where the dog will walk away with bugged out eyes and look at one of the enforcement dogs or the alpha dogs with this look that's like, hey, we can't deal with this guy. And then one of the other dogs, for this complete stranger, is willing to put their physical health on the line, not to confront in a hostile way, but to actually disarm the aggressive behavior while showing attention to how that dog feels and showing that we listen and we care. And watching that ritual is much better illustrated, and then discussed than just pure audio. But it is, so I won't go into what it looks like, but it is the most incredible thing. And when you relate that to people, could I send someone into your house who's violent? but just needs emotional help and have you try to help them? No. Nobody does that. Yet if you do that to dogs, if they have the capacity and the emotional bandwidth themselves, they're going to instantly be like, oh, this individual needs help, I'm going to go help. So when you see stuff like that, and there's a million examples that are more common at a daycare setting, like a dog, because we actually try to keep dogs out who don't have enough social and emotional skills and health to take biting off the table as a potential. But you'll see things where a dog is just nervous or scared. And the beauty of it is humans tend to need to have a problem with your problem to actually try to help, and the diagnosis is related to their problem with your problem. And I'll explain that. Our selflessness is very selfish and ego-driven, even when we're being selfless. So you don't have depression until you don't show up for work. You don't have anxiety until you behave in a way that's uncomfortable or disturbing towards others. You don't have an alcohol problem until you hit somebody. In dog society, they don't need to have a problem with your problem. If they identify that a dog is struggling in a certain way or area, they will go try to help. And if that dog is too nervous and afraid to be addressed directly, they put on skits and shows to illustrate the foundational lesson. And again, better watched and narrated in real time than discussed on pure audio. But if you get a chance to watch dogs put on a skit for a dog who isn't ready to hear it directly, it shatters the glass ceiling of conventional animal science's consensus of what dogs are capable of. In an experiment of 1, 2, or 3, just with your own dog, in an experiment of 1, you can absolutely shatter the glass ceiling of like, this is what dogs know or can do. And when you watch these games, drills, and rituals, these approaches to community and society, it's everything we wish we were that we think is misunderstood, misheard, no one cares, no one sees it. Some of these other animals are practicing it beautifully, and participating in dog society is a great retreat to a place that's the way we all wish it was.
So at the Dog Wellness Club, do you see when a new dog comes in, does everyone else's position there shift a little bit, or how does that work? Is the alpha dog still going to be the alpha?
Yeah, so there's different pack roles, and just like us, they have personalities and pack roles. And your personality has nothing to do with your pack role, so if you have someone tell you that you need to be your dog's leader as a dog training strategy, and it's no couch, no bed, no petting, get through the door first, always in control, that makes you maybe an OCD roommate or a first grader who's really bossy. Your dog will not see you as a leader, however, they have tremendous social grace and will almost always comply because they understand you and they're kind. So you can trick yourself into thinking it's working in that way. So they all have personalities, and in situations where nothing's going on, they be themselves. Some dogs, for example, who are enforcement minded are playful, silly, goofy, like fun, laugh, drunk guy at the barbecue. Another officer dog might be very stoic and calm and shy. But somebody hits their wife and they both react the same way. So a new person coming in, or new dog, they don't have property rights the way we do, and they don't have protection outside of the community and family that's right in front of them. You'll see them, so a new comes in, they then organize based on their pack role, and they go do their job, and they stop being their personality in that moment. So you'll see those switches, and that's where dogs often get deemed Jekyll and Hyde, or they're really well trained. But what's happening is you're seeing them participate in the world in a different way. Even if my dad is super kind and attentive and sensitive and receptive, if he's a lifeguard and someone's drowning and I'm tugging on his arm at the pool to get attention, he's going to be non-compliant, difficult, maybe seemingly stupid from my eyes because he's not doing what I say, but he's being completely consistent with who he is and always will be and always was. So that's something that, knowing dogs are socially brilliant and think like good people, feels good as a dog lover, but it's an actual perfect compass for seeing them act out, express themselves, and behave, and being able to go, what are you going through? And if needed, how do I respond in a meaningful way?
Are there dogs that really are dangerous breeds?
No. By design, when they're raised by their own and they select parents based on nature's rule for who does and doesn't have children in social mammals groups, which we could have a whole episode about that. Dogs raised by dogs are safer than people raised by people. They're more polite than people raised by people. They read nuances of who is comfortable with what and what should I do towards them, around them, better than people raised by people. Ohana's 6, and I've seen 3 times in her life that she approached someone and made a choice they didn't like jumping up and they didn't want it, or wiggling over to them and they were uncomfortable with it. I'm wrong like that probably 3 times a day. Their social intuition and recognition of family and community and how to treat it is light years ahead of ours.
And tell me again, what does dog-centric mean?
So dog-centric is kind of a label I've given studying the dog and teaching yourself as a model for this, using what the dog is going through and their social emotional phases, their puppy phases, actually going straight into that and then using our intuition to then make choices about how to relate. So it's oriented around them. So there is no leash aggression. There's a rope around me and I have to protect the other person on the end of the rope. So we don't treat leash aggression. They don't have leash aggression. Leash aggression is my problem with my dog's problem. The dog-centric approach is, well, what's the dog's problem? They feel like they need to be protective of you and they're bad at it and they overreact and they're wrong a lot. Well, when someone's going through that, how do we respond in a meaningful way? You can fully humanize your dog. And I can't think of a behavior issue you can't solve if you're open and aware and honest with yourself, plus using that model of what are they going through, how do I respond in a meaningful way.
And I would assume that no dog wants to be stressed out or no dog wants to not be the best they can be. So how can we help them?
The best way to help them is that two-part approach of, if my dog is socially brilliant, they think like a good person. So you could give me any incident. The big dog attacked the small dog. The professional dog trainers often say when I get a dog that makes it to me who had that diagnosis or that event, it thought the small dog was prey, which means it's stupid, which violates one of the two rules. My dog is socially brilliant. The reality is dogs know more about you than your immediate family does within minutes of meeting you, and they know things about you you don't admit to yourself. So no, the big dog did not think the small dog was prey. Every single listener now is better than 99% of behavior solutions experts at knowing what the dog is actually going through. And if I'm trying to help somebody, if I don't know who I'm talking to, how do I make sense? So knowing what it isn't that, already you don't take your GPS to the wrong place, right? So if you're wrong out the door, there's no strategy. You might get lucky, lottery ticket style, but you're not going to actually have a meaningful approach. So then, well, why did they do it? What actually happened? We start to look holistically. That's a very intense, aggressive behavior, but they have no interest in hurting anybody. Are they protective? Are they overprotective? If they're overprotective, just like a teacher who snaps at the kids gratuitously or a lifeguard that's such a spaz that they won't let the kids in the pool, maybe if they have an important job to do but aren't cut out for it, they're short-fused, they're tense, and their instincts are off and they're wrong a lot. It's all relatable. You can humanize them and empathize with them 100%, and then I can be intuitive. Well, if my dog is jumping on our guests and they're lunging at dogs on the leash and they quote-unquote attacked the small dog like this one did, our problems with their problems will be many that can all stem back to their actual problem. So instead of playing whack-a-mole with every manifestation of my problem with their problem, I can go with the fact that this dog probably is controlling and trying to protect and is a little bit tense or stressed out. So at that point, then I can go, we do need protection, right? And you're not good at it. So a rational and logical approach would be, I'm going to show you, in terms that make sense to you, that I'm a really competent protector and I can make those decisions about when we go bite someone or not, which hopefully if you live in a good neighborhood, it's not often. So that's really like the anatomy of the approach. And then from there, you can fit on 48-point font on one sheet of paper the intellectual part of, well, how do dogs communicate and how do I start to talk to my dog about it? So it's really easy once the instinctual foundation is set where you're primed for dog-centric learning. And that's why I like the emphasis at this point in my career on the enabling underlying understandings that allow everyone to be a dog whisperer or a dog listener or a great dog wizard or whatever gurus call themselves. That is my mission and my dream.
Well, I love it. Max, if people want to learn more besides this great interview, how can they do that?
Well, I'm not going to give the new website for Answers from Dogs, but you could probably guess because it's not launched yet. But if you want to know what we're doing in the city, we're in Minneapolis and we have dogwellness.club, which is our daycare, and we have YDBF, acronym for Your Dog's Best Friend, .org, and that's our training organization.
Max Bitterman is a dog relator, and we really are so grateful that he stopped in today. And you are listening to another edition of Community in Depth on AM 1460 and FM 97.7 KDWA in Hastings.